touchy to get involved and Cass get a penalty. Could have changed the whole game, but in the end, Cass far too good. I'd rest several players next week against Trin if I were Darryl Powell.
There you go. Peter Osborne, Cass. Nice to hear from you, Peter. Get in touch and says, "Hey up, a potentially tough game got made to look easy by our important players. Macker and Hardacre were superb. On the other hand, it's disappointing to see how far behind the rest of our forwards Jerry Springer is. A once exciting prop has now become a clumsy penalty machine. Back to the positive though, I can't quite believe we can win the league against Wakey next week."
Andy Barden said, "Good effort by Salford, but seemed they lacked the creativity on the final tackle. Castleford looked good, but not like the side they were a couple of months ago. Despite Leeds and Saints losing this week, they will still think they will know how to win playoff games at the business end of the season. Think Castleford will miss out on the grand final. Oh yeah, first time using the Google Forms for your foundation listener."
It's always lovely to hear from you, Andy.
Yeah,
real pleasure.
Always around, never quite doing it properly review-wise, but he's on the train now.
He's there, he knows what to do. Fat Boy Rob managed to tear himself away from Instagram for long enough to say, "We are the champions, my friend, and we'll go and fight until the end. We are the champions, we are the champions. No time for losers, because we are the champions to the end. Mark to sing, please, winky face." I suspect he might have been having a little shandy or two when he sent that away.
Well, he didn't get the look of the draw in the way the reviews felt, did he?
Would you have sung it? Will you sing it?
No. Tyler Cassvan said, "After waiting 91 years, or nearer 9.1 years for me, Cass are effectively league winners." Defended well and showed how to be a clinical in attack. Hardacre and McShane were brilliant, but overall a good team display. Now, time to invite Wakey fans to a party at the Jungle this week.
There you go. Well, they certainly did enough to beat Salford. There was a couple of things that I would be actually quite pleased with that some people might find a negative from the Castleford performance. The second half onslaught from Salford, where they stood up really well. Salford were at them for a good period of that second half. Now, you could say Salford lacked a certain amount of creativity and their ends of sets weren't great and they didn't finish things off particularly brilliantly, but facing that level of intensity and that level of competition and that having to work that hard defensively can only do Castleford good moving forward through the season and give them that muscle memory when you get to the tougher games. But Salford's season continues to implode, so it was the same story as last week for me for Salford. They were beaten up the middle. Cass had more variation in attack and took their opportunities.
Yeah, I don't remember the decision that Brian Davies is picking out there. I did think the Vatu try that was ruled out for an obstruction was a little bit harsh. Yeah. The Lannon try that was ruled out was obvious. Yeah. But the Vatu one I thought was a little bit harsh on the attacking side. However, them's the breaks sort of thing. But I think it did take that kind of borderline effort from Salford to even come close to scoring. I mean, the try they scored was fingertips on the in-goal line, sort of kind of finishing by big Manu, who's going really well for him. You've got to credit him for that, coming over and having a fair crack at it for the Red Devils. You made a good point about Castleford sort of start to middle of the second half under a lot of pressure. We can question Salford's creativity, but for me watching it, what I thought was they never had any gaps, any weaknesses to focus on.
True.
Whereas when Castleford were attacking, Paul McShane was able to hit those holes in behind the ruck for his try and for Hardacre's first try. Yeah. And so they were finding holes and weaknesses a bit more. Hardacre's ridiculous line for his second try was like, whoa, shot out of a cannon in a line that never would have normally be a gap. But he noticed that a big lad was getting a bit lazy during interchange. And all of those sort of things. I mean, they found their opportunities and they took their opportunities. And it wasn't sparkling, but I don't think in the conditions that the Friday night games were played in, all of them were played in awful conditions for flowing, sort of entertaining rugby. And Castleford were still able to pull off some fantastic plays in and amongst that, and then defend absolutely resolutely, which is, I think it's a mark of where they are at now, is that they can win games with defence and then just take their opportunities. Now, they lost a game to St Helens last week on this very same sort of basis, in terms of St Helens won the game with their defence and taking their opportunities. Salford were phenomenal defensively for 3/4 of the season. They're not that now. So maybe there are tougher tests to come, like Barden sort of hinted towards. But you've got to celebrate this and celebrate the league win, the Leaders' Shield win, the minor premiers, the title, whatever you want to call it.
It's one of the phenomenal achievement.
It's one of the 3 trophies. It's one of the 3 major trophies.
Yeah.
It's one they've never won before.
Yeah.
And they should, in my expectations, confirm it on Thursday night, and the party will go long on into the evening.
Absolutely.
And they deserve it for performances like this, as much as performances where they put 50 points on people earlier in the season.
And it's the culmination of this arc, or it's the apex of this project that Darryl Powell has implemented at Castleford, and this culture that he's created. And you've seen it over the last 4 or 5 years that he's built this team up, and they've played a certain style of rugby league, and they've stuck to a philosophy, and they've brought in young players, and they've augmented with talented guys from there, and from all over the planet. But what ties them all together is this willingness to play for each other, and this willingness to work hard. And as much as they want to score attractive, scintillating tries, he's also actually instilled this season, and it's starting to pay off this year massively for them, is an enthusiasm in defence as much as anything else. We've always enjoyed watching Castleford Tigers play rugby league, but we haven't always enjoyed watching them defend. And now they've boxed off both sides of that, haven't they?
Yes, definitely, completely. And
this is what happens when defence wins titles, isn't it?
And there's a trophy now, so there's a culmination of that, and maybe there could be 2 trophies to follow. I'm not writing them off.
No. From my point of view, I sincerely hope they win the grand final
against teams like Leeds and St Helens. And if Wigan aren't playing up against them, then I hope too that they win the grand final.
I'll be cheering them on all the way between now and the end of the season, because I think it'd be a wonderful story for rugby league to get a different name on that trophy.
Okay, on the stats.
Yes.
Despite 4 more errors helping to contribute to slightly fewer carries, Castleford were much better than Salford in their work. More metres at a better average gain. 5 clean breaks to 1 show they were the better team in attack. 10 fewer missed tackles and a 2.2% better team tackle success rate show they were the better team in defence. Individually, Zach Hardacre, we all know, was probably the standout in this one. He certainly won all the accolades and all the Man of the Match awards. 2 tries, 1 try assist, 8 tackle busts, 116 metres, 3 clean breaks. Jesse Seni-Lefeo, who's a player we've all enjoyed this year, 7 tackle busts, 149 metres. Mike McMeekin, 127 metres. Jake Webster, 126 metres. Greg Minikin, 110 metres.
Okay.
For Salford, Manu Vatavai keeps hitting the stats round up. A try in 130 metres, George Griffin 136 metres, Josh Jones 127, and then a couple of hard workers in defence, Adam Wallen 44 tackles, Ryan Lannan 41.
Fantastic. Okay, so at the same time as that was being played, there was another error-strewn encounter going on down at the Totally Wicked Stadium. It finished St Helens 6, Hull FC 8 in front of 10,338 and refereed by James Child.
And Frogmore starts off the fan reviews with, I can see why this game wasn't on TV, woeful.
Yes, there you go. That about sums it up really. But Brian Davies got in touch and said an ugly win in terrible conditions was the way that Radio Humberside described this one. Both sides had plenty of drop ball, but FC got the 2 points, which could be crucial in the race for the top 4.
Rich Langley said in brackets, radio listen, old school result, ground out in terrible conditions, injury combined with sickness crisis.
Well, yeah.
Can't keep a good team down. Sneyd pulled the strings and scored the points. The top 4 places are going to be going to the wire this year, not the Wolves. The whole double charge is still on the track.
Sarah, I presume this is Mackenzie, got in touch and says, now then lads, Sneyd, that's about all there is to say. Oh, it was raining and we had lots of players missing.
Joshua's granddad at John Scott at 15 said, 2 points won is the only positive here. Horrible conditions to play rugby in. Grace could have or should have had 4 before half time and Saints would have been out of sight. Last ditch and goal line defence was great once again though. Despite the thoughts of many on the terraces, I thought Griffin once more showed his worth to the team.
There you go. Well, Griffin did come in and do a job for them because they were missing some key players out of that back line, weren't they? Fanua wasn't playing. There's no Jamie Shaw in the lineup for Hull FC, so immediately
No
that's
tools.
talent. Noah. So there's three big attacking outlets that you've got to replace there. So that probably has an impact on A, the way that you set up to go and play the game, and also because they were late dropouts, B, your preparation is impacted as well.
And then Bowden in the pack is another miss.
Big time.
And Minicello.
Yeah.
I'm guessing some of those players were not. Maybe they're managing their squad a little bit towards Wembley, but then again, this was a big game in the reckoning. Certainly, when we've had all the jokes about the Hull FC injury crisis or whatever, this is one of the weaker teams that they've probably put out for a while, and they got the goods.
Yeah, ground it out on a grubby night. Fair play to Mark C for kicking the winning 2 points from.
It was a great penalty. Whether
100 miles away.
5 yards offside or not, the kick isn't really here or there necessarily.
No.
That kick was made though with 17 minutes left. Of the game.
So
there's a lot to see out
for Saints to do.
Yeah, but
something in that.
There was plenty of time for them to drop the ball 10 or 12 more times, I would suppose, based on what it looks like happened in this one. One of the most shoddy kind of handling performances.
Yeah.
Now, whether you credit defences for closing down some of the space on those things, there were, on the highlights I've seen, a couple of Regan Grace opportunities, certainly. Mark Percival mucked up a couple of them for him as well as creating one for him expertly very early doors. So that Saints left edge was a threat, but I'm not sure where else the threats were coming from. But I certainly know there wasn't much going well for either side in attack in the rain.
And this is two big packs coming up against each other as well. So there was the attritional nature of those two coming up against each other. So it just made for an old-fashioned sort of knock-down slobber knocker of a rugby league match, didn't it?
Yeah, in terms
there's nothing really to add in terms. There was apart from Regan Grace's finish, which was nimble and athletic. There just wasn't a tremendous amount on display in terms of summer rugby league, was there?
No, I mean the story of the game that the paper gives is 4 points. It's just
about right. Well, you couldn't write the errors on it. They'd need to do a second edition, wouldn't they?
That's true. Yeah. So in terrible conditions, this game ended up with the joint second worst total error count of the season. Wow. Saints' 23 errors is the worst by a team in a game this season, and the joint worst since SLP began way back at the start of 2014. Hull conceded 3 more penalties, which will have helped even up the possession, but still ended up with more carries, although they couldn't do a lot with it. Saints edged the breaks, but 2-1, and made more ground by 154 metres, at a much better average, 1.3 metres per carry. Stats would lean towards Saints winning this one if it wasn't for that abysmal error count.
There you go. Individually then, who stood out for us?
Scott Taylor 145 metres, Liam Watts 111 metres, so that's what you were saying. Gareth Ellis too, adding on to that 140 metres as well from him, so that sort of middle unit starting set of players for FC Dynamite, and then Danny Houghton with his regulation 50 tackles.
Do we need to start up in the bar for what gets Danny Houghton into the stats roundup?
Well, we only got 4 people making the stats roundup anyway for Hull.
Well, yeah, this game it probably needs it. Yeah, we need to lower the bar maybe this week.
Regan Grace with a try, 134 metres, was one of the standouts for Saints. Alex Walmsley's 180 metres gets him in there. Mark Percival's try assist, 6 tackle was 172 metres, shows he was still a threat, if not a finishing threat. James Roby, 51 tackles, 10 of which were marker tackles, outdoing your mate. And John Wilkin, 42 tackles, 10 marker tackles. He keeps going strong in his defensive efforts.
Okay, final game of the round then was at the DW on Friday evening. Wigan 18, Huddersfield Giants 4. It finished in front of 10,619, refereed by one Phil Bentham.
Yeah, it didn't feel like there was that many there, but that's what the numbers say. Brian Davies said, listen to this on Radio Yorkshire. Wigan, the better team, sounded like the second try was suspect with an offside, and Huddersfield got some beneficial decisions in return. Nice for the two also-rans to play each other whilst the big boys are playing for the 4. Expect these minnows to challenge the better teams from time to time in the next few weeks. Bless them.
There you go. At Paper Jam Create got in touch. He said this was a scrappy game in greasy conditions with both sides making numerous errors. It was clear to see that Wigan have been working on the defence all week as Huddersfield threatened but never really looked like making a breakthrough. The emphasis on defence was also clear to see in Wigan's attacking play that remains flat, unimaginative and disorganised. 18-4 was a flattering scoreline.
Mark W said, pretty dull game unfortunately, neither side did anything exciting. The difference was Huddersfield's inability to put together an attacking play, with the only try coming from a Wigan error. I think we're missing Ridyard if he's not back next year, we need to think about a halfback who can liven things up a bit.
Well, the whole game needed livening up, really, didn't it? Again, just in a weekend of games that weren't classics, this is perhaps unsurprising that we complete the set, really, isn't it?
The best bit of skill and entertainment was probably saved for